a film or tell a story. And so when you say these years and the amount of people that I've met.
At 61, Keanu Reeves finally broke the silence, something fans never expected from Hollywood's most humble, soft-spoken superstar. For decades, Keanu has been known as the kindest man in Hollywood, a gentle soul who avoids conflict, forgives quickly, and treats everyone from co-stars to camera operators with equal respect. So when he admitted that there were 6 actors he truly hated working with, the revelation stunned everyone. Because if Keanu Reeves, a man who buys crew members' motorcycles, gives away millions, and lives with almost monk-like simplicity, says he hated someone, then something serious must have happened. Insiders say these 6 names weren't chosen lightly. Each one represents a story Hollywood tried to bury. An actor who humiliated him on set during his early career. A co-star whose ego nearly destroyed an entire film. A superstar who mocked Keanu's acting behind his back until it leaked. A veteran performer who refused to speak to him unless the camera was rolling. A supposed friend who used Keanu for publicity and betrayed him. And finally, the one actor he said he would never work with again, not even for $20 million. For a man like Keanu, who avoids negativity and rarely complains, these experiences cut deeper than most people know. Behind his calm smile and quiet demeanor is a lifetime of dealing with jealousy, ego, cruelty, and arrogance from people who mistook his kindness for weakness. But now, at 61, he's done hiding it. And the stories behind each of these 6 actors are more shocking, more heartbreaking, and more revealing than any fan could ever imagine. Because for the first time in his career, Keanu Reeves isn't pulling punches. He's telling the truth exactly as it happened. For most people, early failures fade with time. But for Keanu Reeves, one actor from his early years left a mark so deep that even decades later, he still remembers the humiliation vividly. Before the fame, before speed, before he became the beloved face of The Matrix, Keanu was a quiet, painfully shy young man just trying to survive in an industry built on loud personalities and big egos. It was during one of his earliest supporting roles that he encountered the very first actor he would later confess to truly hating, someone who made him question whether he even belonged in Hollywood. Keanu arrived on set each morning nervous but determined. He rehearsed quietly, kept to himself, and tried to learn from the more seasoned cast. But there was one actor, a well-known television star at the time, who decided immediately that Keanu was an easy target. Maybe it was jealousy, maybe it was insecurity, or maybe the man simply enjoyed being cruel. Whatever the reason, he made it his personal mission to belittle Keanu every chance he got. He mocked Keanu's voice, his delivery, even the way he stood during scenes. When Keanu asked an honest question about a line, the actor snapped loud enough for the whole set to hear, "Maybe acting isn't for you, kid." The crew laughed nervously. Keanu didn't. He just swallowed the embarrassment and went back to work, pretending the comment didn't sting. But things got worse. During one emotional scene Keanu had spent all night preparing for, the actor deliberately sabotaged the take, interrupting him, rolling his eyes, and whispering insults between shots. At one point, he even told the director that Keanu was slowing the production down. What hurt Keanu most wasn't the insult. It was the realization that no one defended him. He was alone, a newcomer in a brutal industry, and this actor knew he could push him around without consequences. Years later, when Keanu was asked about his toughest experiences in Hollywood, he didn't name the man publicly. He never does. But he admitted that this actor was the first person he ever truly hated working with, describing him as someone who enjoyed making other people feel small. That encounter shaped Keanu in ways no one saw at the time. Instead of becoming bitter, he became more empathetic. Instead of responding with ego, he responded with humility. And instead of letting cruelty break him, he used it to fuel his determination to be the opposite type of actor, kind, generous, and gentle with everyone on set. But deep down, the memory never faded. Even today, he remembers the man clearly, not because of the pain, but because that experience became the foundation of his approach to Hollywood. Never treat anyone the way he was treated, And this was only the beginning. The first name on Keanu's private list wasn't the most famous, or even the most dramatic, but it was the one that taught him the hardest truth: kindness can make you a target, especially in Hollywood. What happened next, though, was even worse, because the second actor on Keanu's list wasn't just unkind. He waged a quiet war against Keanu behind the scenes. If the first actor on Keanu Reeves' list bruised his confidence, the second one nearly destroyed his entire future in Hollywood. This wasn't just petty insults or on-set rudeness. This was calculated, quiet, and far more dangerous. Because this actor didn't just dislike Keanu, he saw him as a threat. It was during the late 1980s, a time when Keanu was starting to gain traction, but still wasn't taken seriously by industry veterans. He had the talent, yes, but he was shy, soft-spoken, and the opposite of Hollywood's loud, commanding personalities. And in an industry built on ego, someone like Keanu was easy to underestimate or manipulate. On one mid-budget film, Keanu found himself working alongside a respected actor who had already established himself as a studio favorite. He walked onto the set with swagger, made demands the production instantly obeyed, and treated everyone around him like they were lucky to be in his presence. When Keanu arrived, polite and humble as always, the man dismissed him with a single glance. But the real clash began when the director started praising Keanu's performance. Nothing over the top, just fair acknowledgement of good work. But to this actor, even that was too much. Keanu's quiet intensity, his ability to connect emotionally in a scene, and his natural presence irritated the man in ways Keanu didn't understand at the time. It wasn't long before the sabotage began. Small things at first. He refused to rehearse scenes with Keanu, blamed him for missed cues, and whispered to crew members that Keanu was inexperienced and difficult to work with. Keanu tried to shrug it off, believing the best in people as he always did, but it didn't stop. It escalated. During a critical emotional scene, where Keanu's character had to deliver a long monologue, the actor rolled his eyes dramatically, sighed loudly, and even muttered insults just low enough that the camera wouldn't pick them up. It threw Keanu off balance every time, and he needed multiple takes, something completely out of character for him. Instead of helping, the actor complained to the director that Keanu was holding back the production. The worst blow, however, happened off-camera. Through quiet channels, the actor approached producers connected to the film and warned them that Keanu lacked depth, that he wasn't ready for bigger roles, and that casting him in anything dramatic would be a mistake. Keanu didn't even know this was happening. He just felt doors start closing, auditions drying up, interest cooling without explanation. He didn't learn the truth until years later. Long after that actor faded into obscurity and Keanu's star began to rise, a producer he trusted finally told him, "There was someone trying to block you, someone who didn't want you moving up." Keanu, stunned, simply nodded. He never revealed the actor's name. He never retaliated. But this was the first time he understood how cutthroat Hollywood could be, how one jealous co-star could threaten your entire future. And yet, despite all the sabotage, despite the whispered rumors and behind-the-scenes politics, Keanu pushed forward, slowly, quietly, on his own terms. He kept showing up early, working harder than anyone, and being kind in an environment that rewarded cruelty. Instead of crumbling beneath pressure, he grew stronger. Instead of fighting back, he let his work speak for him. By the time Point Break and Speed launched him into global stardom, that same actor who once tried to bury him had faded from leading roles entirely. Meanwhile, Keanu had become one of the most respected men in Hollywood, not because he shouted the loudest, but because he stayed true to himself. But the worst name on Keanu's list wasn't the bully or the saboteur. It was someone he trusted, someone he admired, who betrayed him in a way he never saw coming. By the time Keanu Reeves reached his early 30s, he had already earned a reputation as one of the most reliable and professional actors in Hollywood. Quiet, humble, and relentlessly disciplined, Keanu had learned from past experiences which personalities to avoid and how to navigate a world obsessed with ego. Yet even with his experience, he was blindsided by someone he considered a friend, a fellow actor who would become the third person on his list of those he hated the most. This wasn't just any co-star. This was someone Keanu had looked up to during his formative years in the industry. A mentor-like figure, someone who seemed generous, kind, and supportive. They shared the screen, exchanged advice, and laughed about the absurdities of Hollywood together. Keanu trusted him completely. He thought the bond was genuine. But behind the smiles and camaraderie, a quiet storm was brewing. The betrayal began subtly. At first, it was small comments in private, which Keanu dismissed as competitiveness, a sly remark about his acting, an offhanded critique of his choices, whispers meant to sow doubt. Keanu, always hopeful, believed it was harmless and part of the competitive nature of the business. But then the manipulation escalated. During the filming of a mid-tier action movie, Keanu began noticing unusual tension on set. Scripts were altered without notice, lines were reassigned, and suddenly he was receiving fewer close-ups despite performing flawlessly. When he asked the director, he was given vague excuses about camera angles and story pacing. But the truth, Keanu would later discover, was that his trusted friend had gone behind the scenes, subtly undermining him in every possible way, convincing producers and the director that Keanu was difficult, temperamental, and uncooperative. Keanu recalls the moment he realized the betrayal like it happened yesterday. He had been handed a message by a crew member, a private note, that the mentor had leaked to a rival studio, framing Keanu as someone unreliable. For a man who had endured harsh critics and bullies before, the sting cut differently. It wasn't just professional sabotage, it was personal. The person who knew him, who had witnessed his dedication and humility, had deliberately tried to ruin his career. What shocked Keanu most was the audacity. His friend never showed remorse or admitted wrongdoing. In interviews and public appearances, he acted as if their bond had never existed, painting himself as supportive and generous. Meanwhile, Keanu had to navigate the damage quietly, ensuring that his projects remained on track while managing the emotional weight of betrayal. Yet, true to his character, Keanu did not lash out publicly. He let the situation fuel him instead. He worked harder, focused more, and chose roles carefully, avoiding people whose intentions were not clear. The betrayal taught him a crucial lesson. Talent and kindness alone are not enough. In Hollywood, trust is fragile, and sometimes those closest to you are the most dangerous. Decades later, Keanu admitted that while he never physically confronted this actor, the anger and disappointment remain vivid. Some people help you grow, he said. Some people show you the kind of person you never wanted to be. He was the latter, and I've never forgotten that. By the end of this chapter, it's clear that even the most humble, kind-hearted actor in Hollywood isn't immune to deception. For Keanu Reeves, the lesson was painful but permanent. In a world built on fame and ego, betrayal often comes from the ones you least expect. By the time Keanu Reeves hit his mid-40s, he had already survived decades of Hollywood's highs and lows. He had faced ridicule, sabotage, and even betrayal, but the final two actors on his list were the ones who challenged him in ways more subtle, yet equally damaging, through sheer ego and envy. Unlike the first three, these weren't reckless bullies or backstabbing friends. They were polished, experienced stars who understood how to manipulate situations to their advantage, and who resented Keanu for reasons he could barely control. The fourth actor was a co-star on a blockbuster action franchise. By this point, Keanu had proven himself not only as a capable action star, but also as a thoughtful, disciplined professional. He arrived on set ready to collaborate, but his co-star, a major Hollywood figure with an outsized reputation for control, immediately took offense to Keanu's quiet confidence. He viewed Keanu's calm professionalism as a personal threat, interpreting humility as a challenge to his own dominance. On set, the tension became palpable. The co-star would interrupt Keanu mid-scene, criticize his blocking, and insist that takes be redone for trivial reasons. But it wasn't just creative differences, it was a subtle campaign to diminish Keanu's presence. In interviews, the actor would highlight small mistakes Keanu made, framing them as evidence of incompetence. In reality, the director later admitted these mistakes were minor and blown out of proportion. Keanu, who had endured worse, remained composed. He didn't retaliate publicly. He focused on the work, delivered performances that spoke louder than words, and let the co-star's insecurity expose itself naturally. Yet the experience left a lasting impression. No matter how calm, respectful, or dedicated you are, Hollywood will always reward ego over humility. The fifth and final actor on Keanu's list, however, was perhaps the most infuriating. Unlike the others, he wasn't openly hostile. In fact, he smiled, laughed, and charmed everyone around him. Behind closed doors, though, his envy was toxic. He resented Keanu's career trajectory, his growing respect in the industry, and the quiet admiration fans had for him. He spread subtle rumors about Keanu's temperament, sabotaged production schedules with passive-aggressive demands, and even tried to convince crew members that Keanu was hard to work with, without ever directly confronting him. What made this particularly infuriating for Keanu was the duplicity. The actor was polished in public, beloved by directors, and seemingly above reproach. Keanu couldn't call him out without risking professional backlash, and he couldn't ignore the harm it caused. For a man who had always trusted honesty and integrity, it was a harsh reminder that some people will act friendly while secretly working against you. Yet, as always, Keanu handled the situation the only way he knew how: silently, deliberately, and with dignity. He completed the projects, maintained professionalism, and refused to engage in petty disputes. Over time, the truth emerged. Crew members and directors who witnessed the behavior confirmed Keanu's professionalism and discredited the lies. Hollywood, as always, eventually sorted the facts, but the experience left a mark on him. By the end of Chapter 4, the lesson is clear. Keanu Reeves may be known for kindness, humility, and grace, but even he is not immune to the darker sides of Hollywood: jealousy, ego, and betrayal. The 6 actors he hated most weren't just obstacles, they were teachers. They showed him exactly what to avoid, how to protect himself, and why staying true to one's principles is far more important than temporary fame or validation. For a man who has survived decades in the cutthroat world of Hollywood, this list wasn't about bitterness. It was about survival, about learning, and about remaining the actor and the person he always wanted to be.